Okay, we are live. Hey everyone, it's Allison. We are live and relocating to Raleigh. We are here with Susan and Glenn. Susan will introduce Glenn, but Susan is with Experience Raleigh. She shares a lot of great information about Raleigh and the area. She's from the area too, so she knows it really well. So, Susan, go ahead and introduce yourself and your special guest.
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here today. I do consider myself a local, public school advocate, since I'm a product of the public schools and I raised two daughters in the public schools as well. And so I do, I see the questions that come up in the group so frequently. And of course, one of the biggest ones is like, where's a good place to move that has good schools? And so I'm always out there wanting to reassure people all of our schools are really good, so you're better off just trying to, find a neighborhood you like or, an area that suits you and your family, and then just worry about, the different schools that might be in that area later. So that's something that I just always want to, just try to impart on you. And I do at the same time know that it can be very overwhelming. You might have heard about capped schools. You might hear about, reassignment because of all the growth. And so I know it's important really just to reassure you and help you understand, what the process is. And so that's one reason that I'm really excited to have Glenn with us today. Glenn Corazzo is the Senior Director of Student Assignment for the Wake County Public School System, which obviously by now is the largest school system in North Carolina. So we're really so pleased to have him here today. And he jumped at the chance to be here with you. And he looks forward to serving as a resource and to sharing more information with you on an ongoing basis. So Glenn, thanks so much for being here. Take it away.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We really appreciate you taking the time. And I know Susan kind of mentioned some of the common questions that people have. So, I think we should probably kick it off with some kind of intro into Wake County schools. What is reassignment? What is a cap school? Like all those types of things to kind of ease people's minds more on what that means.
Okay. So one of the things I like to talk to parents about is Wake County is much different than maybe where many of us grew up. I grew up in the suburbs of New York City, and where I grew up, there was 3 elementaries, 1 middle school, and 1 high school for the entire district. So it's a lot smaller. Wake County is the 14th largest school district in the nation. We have about 162,000 students, over 190 schools. So when you look at that sheer size, that's probably a lot bigger than what most people are used to. And also we have an assignment plan. There's 4 pillars that go into policy 4150 that basically direct staff to try to make sure that we have balanced schools throughout the district. And so it's not always going to be about where you go to school to the closest school to where you live. It's about it's in a proximity is what we call it. And so you may have a school that's 2 miles away and a school that's 5 miles away. You may be assigned to the school that's 5 miles away. It's still an approximate area. Okay. And so that's done on purpose. Wake County has been a beacon of diversity throughout the last several decades. And so many people come here because when you come, you're going to get diverse schools, as well as very highly academic, rigorous schools as well. And that's what I think has been one of the reasons why I came here. I mean, just being able to have an opportunity for my children to go to excellent schools and really experience all the things that we weren't getting where we were coming from. Mm-hmm. And so, when families come here, we have resources. And please don't worry about if I give you websites during this. I'm going to have a packet of information that I'll share with Allison and Susan, and they can get that information out to everybody. But basically, we have a landing page, the student assignment landing page, and it'll walk you through the enrollment process. What links should you go to check first to find out where you should start the enrollment process? And then as you go through the enrollment process, you'll find out things about cap schools. You'll hear things about reassignment. And those are all things that are necessary. Due to the growth in our district, it's very easy for us to have to reassign students, not on a yearly basis like they used to do about 10, 15, 20 years ago, because now we're doing more long-range planning tied into it. So you may have heard that, Wake County reassigns every year. That is not the case. We are only reassigning every year when we're opening new schools. And basically, I want to say like 16 out of the last 18 years, we've opened brand new schools. And so we're just continuing to grow with needing schools where the population growths are coming. Wake County is a county school district, which is different than where many people are coming from, where they were community-based school districts. Community-based school districts are more so where the school system is run through the municipality. So they work with, all of their internal components to make sure that they have the infrastructure ready so that they can have the school ready for all the families that'll be moving there. Unfortunately, since Wake County is a county-wide school district, we are at the whim of the municipalities. They like to build and build often and build large neighborhoods. And so the school system has to play catch up with regards to trying to make sure that we have proximate schools for these students in these areas. And generally, the building time that happens with a neighborhood is generally 2 to 3 years. It generally takes a school about 5 to 7 years from pre-planning and allocating money and then actually building it and then getting it ready for students. So you can see there's such a lag there. So we do rely on our municipalities and having a relationship with them, which has increased tremendously over the last several years. So we are working together with them to try to have schools in places where they're going to have large amounts of growth. So with that large amounts of growth, we may not have enough seats at a school for particular students. And so therefore we can do one of two things. The board can choose to cap the school. That means that we don't have enough seats for the students who are living in that particular area. And so what we have to say is any students who haven't moved in before this particular date, they may be assigned to a different school until we have seats available. And with that comes transportation. If we have to assign you to an overflow school, we will provide you door-to-door bus transportation like you would if it was your base school. And then you'll be on a waiting list until a seat becomes available, and then we'll contact you and say, hey, there's seats available. Would you like to come back to your base school? Capping, some parents don't like it because the overflow schools tend to be not as proximate. Depending on where you are in the county, the majority of our cap schools are in Western Wake and in Southwestern Wake. Basically because that's where our rapid growth is every year. The Student Assignment Office every year shares heat maps that show the projected growth in the area. And you can see those maps, and I'll make sure that you guys have access to all of that. There's lots of information that just shows you where our new schools are going to happen. We have a future schools website with maps, just so parents can have all of the information they need in order to make a decision on where they want to go to live. So with capping, the board can also decide to reassign. And so when we determine that through long-range planning that, capping is just not going to be a long-term fix. We don't have a brand new school coming in the next several years to accommodate the growth. So we may need to look at reassigning some students. And while reassignment is not fun, as a parent myself, it's not easy, but it is a necessary component of our system because we need to utilize our funds properly. It's not always effective for us to bus students so far away unless it's serving a purpose, kind of like our magnet schools, which are really a great component that we offer that many districts don't also offer. We do offer busing for long distances to go to schools that may have academic programming that's unique to that particular school, AG programming, IB programming, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So with that, that's how our office also works with the magnet office, like I just mentioned. So you've got possible reassignment coupled with it's personal choice. So families can apply for magnet schools. So when we incentivize families in these cap school areas or these overcrowded areas, we incentivize them to go to magnet schools by offering them a higher priority. And so that will and then help us with the crowding. So the more students we can get to willingly go to a magnet school and take advantage of all those opportunities, then the less we'll have to reassign or cap in a particular school year. And so that's kind of how a lot of what we do works. While it is unique, with student assignment. It's not normal when you go to a school system and say, hey, I need to talk to the Office of Student Assignment. Most districts don't even have one. And so what we're trying to do is take on more of an active role with families to anticipate some of the questions or concerns that they may have, or where are they coming from, and so that we can try to hit targeted marketing beforehand. And so that'll be part of what we will share with you guys is all the questions that we think parents may have. We'll be more than happy to share some information, as well as, if any questions come up after viewing this, please feel free to get them to Allison and Susan, and our office will be more than happy to get you answers, because we're just looking forward to try to make this process a lot easier for parents, because there's a lot of stress when it comes to moving and coming to a new place, and we want to try to ease that as much as possible.
Yeah, and we appreciate that very much. It is a common thing that comes up in the group, is just about the schools and where they came from. A lot of people are coming from California or Florida or Long Island or New York, and they're used to the community-based schools. So it's totally different and hard for people to understand. And then the other thing that's difficult for people to understand is year-round versus traditional. So I don't know, is there any info on that you could share about?
Okay, so traditional calendar schools are similar to what you generally have in other parts of the country. They start a little bit earlier. A lot of schools generally start that Tuesday after Labor Day, but ours start the last week of August, and then they go through till the beginning of June. They have the natural Christmas break, Thanksgiving break, a spring break that many of us traditionally grew up with experiencing throughout our schooling. Now, year-round schools are a little bit different. No, they do not go to school technically all year. They do go to school the same exact number of days as students on the traditional calendar, except they start earlier. They start the first week in July. And then we have 4 tracks. So there's always 3 tracks in the building at one time, and a 4th is always out on a 2-week break. So they just cycle throughout the year, or a 3-week break. So basically, in a nutshell, you'll go to school for 9 weeks, then you take a 3-week break, and then you go to school for 9 weeks, take a 3-week break. And so you'll have 4 3-week breaks throughout the school year. You will still get time off for Christmas, like traditional calendar. You'll still get time off for Thanksgiving, like traditional calendar. You just won't get a spring break per se, because you'll have that 3-week break in there. Of all the calendars, that's one of my favorites, the year-round calendar. My kids were on it, especially when they were younger. I liked it because we could travel. You travel cheap, and going to Disney in November is really great compared to going in May.
Yep.
For over the summer. So we really enjoyed that. However, the only downfall to multi-track year-round schools is the track out camps tend to be a little bit more expensive than maybe a summer camp. And then, you just have your 3-week breaks throughout the school year. So whereas, parents sometimes may send their kids to go live with a family member over the summer, visit grandma and grandpa for the summer, this would be 4 3-week breaks throughout the year. We also have modified calendar schools, which are actually my favorite. Modified, I think, blends the best of both. Modified calendar has 10 weeks on and 2 weeks off. And so their actual 2-week breaks, whenever they come, actually end the marking period. So you go to school for 10 weeks, and then you end the first quarter, and you go on a 2-week break. And then that's usually the last week of September, first week of October. They start the 3rd week of July. And so then they'll go till Christmas. Right before Christmas, they'll go on a 2-week break like everybody else gets off for Christmas. They'll still get that Thanksgiving break. But again, that'll be the end of the second quarter. And then they go, after Christmas until I think it's 2 weeks in March. And then they go from March until the end of May. They usually get out the end of May. And again, there's really not a lot of where track outs may break it up before the end of the quarter. Before you have to have testing at the end of the semesters. The modified calendar does not. It just ends, and then you're done. And then you start fresh the next time over.
Okay. So one question that does come up often, not just about what year-round versus traditional is, but also, do you get a choice of year-round or traditional calendar? So how does that work?
So all families, when you enroll, you are enrolled at your base school. Now, your base school could be traditional, modified, or year-round. And we have track 4 only year-round and multi-track year-round. That is your base school. That's the school we will guarantee you a seat at, unless it's capped, of course, but we will also give you a seat at the overflow school. Now, if that school calendar, you'd like to apply for a different school calendar, we do have what we call calendar application schools. And depending on your address, you may get we may incentivize that by giving you transportation if you apply and get accepted into one of those calendar application schools. And so that application period, depending on what your base school is, could either be from October 15th through the end of January if your base is traditional and you're applying to a multi-track year-round or a track 4 year-round. That's part of our magnet schools, technically, so we lump that in with their application period. And then everyone else can apply during the request for transfer period, which is generally the end of February, early March. This year it's February 26th through March 12th.
Okay, so here's a question we have. So, for a lot of people moving, it's lining up the timing of when to actually apply and things like that. What's required also? I get that question.
Okay. You froze.
Did I just go out?
Yeah, you froze for a second.
Do you have to have proof of an address with, a contract, or do you need more like a utility bill or things like that in order to get registered before you move here?
Great question. So our pre-registration period. So if you want to pre-register for the next school year, that opens actually in October, mid-October, October 15th. You can start to pre-register for the next school year. So this past October 15th, which was 2020, we started pre-registrations for the 21-22 school year. And in the links that I'll give you, we'll have all the documents you can use to pre-register for the next school year. In this particular case that you shared, we would just need an offer to purchase contract that has a closing date before July 1st. And you can pre-register in Wake County for the next school year, okay? And so once you pre-register, then you can participate in our magnet selection period, our early college selection period, our request for transfer period, all of those application windows. It's kind of like our free agent window in sports, where people can start to look at other schools other than their base to see if they get a seat there. But all you have to do is just go to your base school. You start the pre-registration process online, and then your base school will finish that and give you an ID number. And once you have an ID number, then you can participate in all the other application windows. But to go back and answer that again, once you have an offer to purchase contract, or if you have utility bills because you've been living in the property, all you have to do is just give us, a utility bill within the last 30 days.
Okay, so an offer to purchase would work for someone who hasn't closed yet on a house but plans to move. That would be adequate. Okay.
Yeah, as long as that offer to purchase contract has them moving in prior to the start of our next school year, which is July 1st.
Okay, that's great info. And what about transportation for people who are capped and have to go to another school? Did you touch on this already a little bit, but just to answer and reiterate it again, do they get provided a bus or some kind of transportation if they are forced to go to a cap school? Yes, the answer is yes. Yeah. But if they choose to go to a magnet school or things like that, how does that work?
Okay, good question. So on our address lookup feature, you can look at all the schools that you can apply to. And in there, you'll see magnet schools. And all of the schools, depending on your address that you can apply to, will also tell you what type of transportation you will get or that you're eligible for should you be approved to the school. So we have neighborhood busing, which is that traditional door-to-door bus service. Generally, your bus stop may be at the corner or whatnot, not technically door-to-door. But you don't have to walk very far. Then we have express busing. Express busing is you may not be able to walk, and it's not likely that you'll be able to walk to the bus stop, but it's at a central location for other students in the area, and then therefore a bus goes there, picks up a bunch of different kids, and then makes several other stops and then heads to the school. It's not like the express busing. So I used to take the train into New York City, and the express train just, got me there a lot quicker. But it's kind of the sense that you may not get there so much quicker, but it's limiting the number of stops that it makes on its way in. And then you have parent provide transportation, which is parents would be expected to pick up and drop off. The only other thing I wanted to say about express busing is sometimes the stop may or may not be in an area that's easy for like kids. So sometimes it could be in like a shopping center, which is good if you have an older child, because my children were on an express bus. I gave them a $25 gift card, and I said, when you get off the bus, go to Starbucks, get yourself a drink, and wait till your mother or I can come pick you up, because they couldn't walk. But for younger children, it tends to be a little bit more tougher because, having a kindergartner, unless you're going to be at that stop, for sometimes it may be easier for parents rather than driving all the way to school. They drive to and from the express stop, may save the parents some time in their day in just getting them to school.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There was a question too about special ed services, IEPs. Is that something you can speak on? Do you have any information on it?
Yep. So special ed and IEPs. So when you do the enrollment process, there is information that you can share that your child has an IEP. And that would be the best thing I can suggest, is that you get those documents uploaded as soon as possible. So this way the IEP team at your school can start to review and start to set up meetings as necessary. If your child does not have special ed services set up yet, but you would like for the school to begin that testing process, all you have to do is contact your special ed office at your school and request that your students start to be tested. There's a process for that. So generally, whatever school you're at, whether it's your base school or if you get transferred to another school, the special ed contact at your school would be the best initial point of contact, because they'll walk you through exactly what needs to be done, for that particular process.
Okay.
Did that answer the question? I hope.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Which we can always do another live stream too, specific to someone who specializes in those services as well.
Okay.
As far as magnet schools, I don't know if Tamani's going to join us or not, but there's a few questions about it with magnets. So like one of them is, what are the chances of being accepted into a magnet school? How does acceptance in magnet schools work? Things like that. Can you speak on that at all?
Yeah, because actually my office does the selection process.
Okay.
So so that works out perfect.
Yeah.
So all applications are submitted online, and then we run through a selection criteria, and those criteria are located online. We look at where you live and the school that you're assigned to as two of the main factors of whether or not you're a priority applicant or not. So then each school has X number of seats available, and we do that based on growth in the area, because magnet seats are set as a percentage of the overall seats available at the school. And so that number may fluctuate from year to year depending on the incoming kindergarten class or sixth grade class or ninth grade class. K6 and 9, I bring that up because those are the best grades where you have the best chances to get accepted to a magnet school. It's a little bit harder as you get to the older grades, because the majority of the seats have been filled and a lot of the families keep their seat. Very seldom do they give those up. And so if you miss that application window, it is less likely that you'll get a seat probably at your first choice magnet, but we do have other magnet schools with similar programs where we have available seats. So if you're a priority applicant, do not fret. We often do allow for students to get magnet seats throughout the summer. If they're a priority applicant, it's just you're limited in the choice of schools that you have, but we do have magnet seats available, definitely.
Okay. Let's see. A quick question here is advice on high schools with automotive programs. Do you know of anything?
I don't, but I can get you information on our career tech ed academies. There are certain schools that have those. If your base school doesn't have it, is that Broughton? Broughton has it. And I know we have two career tech ed high schools. There's North Wake College and Career Academy and Burnham Malone. I'm not sure. I don't think either of them has automotive. I could be wrong. I think Vernon Malone does have collision repair, so they may have that particular field as well.
Okay.
But now I'll just clarify. If that is really important to you, what I would suggest as a parent is you find out what school has that, and then move into the base of that school. Because I'll be honest, we don't do transfer applications based on, hey, I want this programming at that school, so I need to go to that school. That's not a reason why our office would approve transfers. So I always say, like, if there's something about a school that you really want, I would suggest you probably will need to move into the base so you guarantee that you'll get that programming.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. So just to reiterate again, I know you did talk about the timing, but it seems like a lot of questions are coming up still regarding the timing. So just for example, here, someone's moving in June, they're worried about registering in time for start of the school year in July. So basically, if they have proof with an offer to purchase, contract, or anything like that, they can register before moving here. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah. So if they have a home already set and they have an offer to purchase contract, even though they won't physically be moving here until end of May, as long as they're offer to purchase contracts before July 1, they can start that pre-registration process now and get it out of the way.
Okay. Okay.
Certainly.
Last question I have, which I don't know, Susan, is there anything that you specifically want to touch on at all?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay. One of the common questions I get is basically ratings. Where's the best information to find out about ratings? How accurate are they? Everyone raves about Wake County schools and how great they are, but the ratings don't match up to some of the top schools in New York and Florida. What is the best way to advise people about ratings in Wake County?
I'm glad you asked that question because we get that often, right, in our office. I've heard so many bad things about school X, and I don't want to go there. And I'll tell you this from my own personal experience. There are ratings out there. There's the North Carolina ratings. There's also great school ratings. And I'll say this. Had I listened to those ratings, I never would have assigned my kids to the schools or applied for the schools that they went to, and they wouldn't have enjoyed themselves as much. So I really think you need to do this. While ratings may be important for some people, what I feel is most important is you've got to walk into the school, tour the school, and find out, like, is this a good fit for you? Because in our personal experience, when we toured the schools that the kids ended up at, they turned to me at the end of the tour and they said, Dad, I feel like I'm at home. This is the school for me. And had we just gone by the ratings, we never would have walked into the school. So I think that's really probably more important than anything I can offer to anyone is just don't give up on any school based on what somebody else tells you. Go and experience it for yourself. Definitely research, do a tour of the schools, contact the principals. They will be more than happy to bring you in and let you see all the great things that they're doing because, there are no bad schools in Wake County. I mean, I can tell you, I came from Westchester County and we were in New York and we had great schools where I came from. And I'm more than happy that we made this move because I feel like my kids got a better education here than they did where we were. So
yeah. No, that's great info. And, it's hard for people to look past that, but it is something that, everyone raves about Wake County schools. So it's one thing that the rating stayed online, but it's another thing to hear word of mouth from everyone who's in the county as well. So one question too about that with tours and COVID, what is going on? Can you tour schools or are they not allowing it? Or what is the process with that?
So I don't know if they're still doing face-to-face tours. If they do, they'll be extremely limited.
Okay.
Minimizing the number of people. But I do know that many schools have done virtual tours, taking advantage of calls like this where they can walk through the building, show families, what resources they have for that when we do eventually come back, all the students in the building, what they'll be able to experience when they're there.
Okay.
And then also do some Q&A with some of the teachers in the building so they can see who they'll be working with.
Okay. That's awesome. Here's a good question from Shannon. So physicals, I know that when you move here, you have to have a physical here in North Carolina before registering. Is that correct?
So I know that you have to have your health assessment done, yes, upon enrollment. I'm not 100% sure if it has to be done by a North Carolina doctor.
Okay.
But I can find out and get you that exact answer.
Okay. I feel like it might have to be in the state of North Carolina with other people I've run into, but I'm not 100% sure either.
If you want to include that in the questions to me, I'll make sure I get an answer for sure on that and get back to you.
That sounds great. Here's another question. How do we have access to talk to principals, as you mentioned? How do we go about setting up that phone call?
So every school website has contact information. When you go to wcpss.net, on the top left-hand part of the school, the webpage, you'll see like View Our Schools. Click on that, and then it's got 3 tabs: elementary, middle school, and high school. Click on the school, and on there, on the top bar, we'll have the phone number for the school. You can contact the main office. There's also contact information for the administrative staff, so you can find the principal's email the principal, let them know, and they'll work with you to get you some information.
Okay.
And they probably also have information there as to the prospective tours that they've already scheduled, the virtual prospective tours.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll market that on their own websites as well. Yes, good point, Susan.
Okay. And someone here just kind of answered for us. They said we use the NC form with our doctor in San Diego. So maybe it's the form and not the doctor.
That's what I think it is. I think you have to use our form, but it doesn't matter. Any physician can do it.
Okay. That's good info. Let's see. I think we've covered most of what we wanted to talk about with this call. I do know there's another question about just the website regarding more information. So all that information you will send to Susan and I.
Yes.
And we can post it in the Relocating to Raleigh group. And if anyone has any other questions regarding anything, is there a good place for people to reach out to get questions answered?
I always suggest people contact the Office of Student Assignment. I mean, my staff is more than willing to help parents walk them through this process, because it's different than other places, and we recognize that. And we really want to help parents have correct information up front so then they can navigate this process as they wish, but at least they know the rules, as they navigate it, and not try to imply or assume what's going on. This way they hear it from the horse's mouth. We were more than happy.
Right. I'll open it up for final questions. I know the stream on the right side here is a little bit delayed, so let's just wait a few minutes and see if anything else pops up. Okay. Someone asking again about the high school with Automotive. Is there a website for that? Is there a good place for them to go to find information on which schools have that program?
Let me take a look. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Each of the high schools may have it on their individual page, but I'm not 100% sure if we have just a list of where those programs are listed throughout the district. But you probably could go, you go to wcpss.net, and then along the top bar, there's programs, and then there should be a programs tab for CTE, Career Tech Ed. And so that would be a good spot to probably start with first, since it's a Career Tech Ed program.
Okay, and then phone number. Is there a phone number for the Office of Reassignment?
Yep. So the Office of Student Assignment is 919-431-7333. And that will take you to an automated service, and then you'll just put in the school that you're assigned to, and that'll direct you to one of my senior administrators who will help you navigate this process.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Last question. I think this is one thing that a lot of people fear, is that 2 kids would be placed in either a different school, or, if their one child went to school and then it capped, and then will their other child have to go to another school, or this as well, can you request 2 kids from different households, same neighborhood, to be placed in the same high school?
So I'm assuming this could be a blended family situation, because what we do try to do is, if 2 students live in the same household, we will always work with the family to make sure that the kids are at the same school as long as they're in the same, grade span level. But if we have a blended family where maybe, one child is registered under mom's address and the other child is registered under the other mother's address or father's address, vice versa, we will work with the family. Can't guarantee that we'll always get them to the top school of choice, but we will try to work with them to find a school where we have seat availability that may work for the family.
Okay.
So we do try to go through that.
Okay. All right. That sounds great. Anything else you think we should be touching on as far as questions or different topics? I feel like we covered a lot of the, top common questions, but anything else?
So I see the questions that 2 families are moving their cousins.
Yes.
So what I would suggest you do is this, get registered if you haven't done so already, if you can. And submit a transfer request for both students through the request for transfer period. In that request, you can click hardship and give a narrative of what's going on. So say, hey, these 2 are cousins and, due to daycare reasons or whatever your reasons are for wanting them at the same school, you can make that request. Provide as much detail as you can. If our office denies it and it's submitted during that time period, you do get the right to an appeal. And so that's where you get to come back in, share with us a little bit more detail, and then we present that to the board on your behalf, and the board will make a final decision. So there are ways where we do try to consider stuff like that. If there's seats available at the school, we always do look at both the impact on the sending school and the receiving school, but we can certainly, we do try to work with families as much as possible.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, thank you. Okay, well, we really appreciate you, Glenn, for being on the call today, and Susan as well for setting everything up. It was great info for people. And here's another question. The repeats of the schools. So with the cutoff dates, daughter turning 6 after August 31st. Question about that.
Okay, so if your child has completed a specific grade in another state, right? And so based on their enrollment laws for that particular state, she'd be in first grade. Then if she's completed that grade level, she'll go on to the next grade when you come here, even though had you lived here prior to starting kindergarten, you may not be in that particular grade. We do reciprocate with other states based on their laws.
Oh, okay.
Say again?
If it's during the school year, I guess they'll just go into the grade that they've been in.
Yep. So if you start the school year in New York, right, and you go to school for a month there, right, and then you move here to North Carolina, we'll keep you in that same grade level, even though you may not have qualified to start the school year had you started the month earlier with us. But no, we'll reciprocate.
Okay. And then there's another question too about just school rating. So we kind of touched base on that.
I just want to say one more thing about grade school stuff.
Yeah.
They put a lot of stock in parent feedback on that. And a lot of times, I mean, we all know people are more apt to speak up when they have something negative to say than they do positive. So I just say, please take that with a grain of salt.
Like Yelp. Like a Yelp.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
True. Yeah. Okay, well, just so everyone knows, Glenn will get us all the information, resources, contact info, website info, everything we need. We will post it in the website, or the relocating group, so that everyone has all of that info. We plan to do a couple different sessions on schools, and we want to, give as many resources to people moving here as possible. Tamani was not able to join us today, but maybe she can get on another call where we can go specifically over, magnet charters. I'd like to get into homeschool options too in the area. So just a lot things. Let's see.
There's that one question about
I see
housing development. Yeah.
Why would that be? Okay. So I think that goes to when you talked in the beginning of the call today about, that 5-mile radius of school.
Yeah, it has to do with proximity. It may not be the exact closest school, but it could be a school that's in the proximate area.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And just to talk about like Tamani, if you do want to talk about magnets, Tamani's a great resource because she knows a lot about the actual programming, the magnet themes at the school. So if you have questions about that, she'd be a great resource for that.
Yeah, that would be great because there are a lot of questions too about, the type of instruction that certain magnet schools use or certain, specific schools. So I think that could be a whole nother call that gets into all
the electives that they offer. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So we do plan to do kind of a series of things to try to get as much information and not be super overwhelming covering all these topics in one time.
Yeah. And there's a lot for parents, so I appreciate their
is.
patience.
Yes, and we really appreciate you, Glenn, being on the call, and like I
Anytime.
said, Susan as well. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else, but we'll be posting everything in the Relocating to Raleigh group, resources, website, everything like that Glenn will send us. Anyone have any final thoughts? National. I think we're good. So yeah, we'll get all that info for you guys. Yeah. The live stream will say we will not be on, but it will be posted in the group as a recording, so you can continue to comment and ask questions, and then we can comment, answer those as well on there. So appreciate everyone taking the time on Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Hope you enjoy the rest of your rainy Sunday here in North Carolina.
Thanks so much, Glenn.
Thank you for having me.
We
appreciate
really appreciate it. Thanks. All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Take care.